Work hard for what you want in life.
You work hard for what you want in life.
That your word is your bond, that you do what you say you're going to do.
That your word is your bond, and you do what you say.
That you treat people with dignity and respect.
That you treat people with respect.
Reach of your dream and your willingness to work hard.
The strength of your dreams and your willingness to work for them.
Work hard.
Work hard.
Work hard.
Work hard.
Work hard. Work hard.
Okay, so today, you guys, we had an episode about PR before, but I really want to revisit this topic and talk about it in a little bit more detail. So since we got the entertainment publicist extraordinaire, Miss Milan Mobley, as part of this show, then I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to really dive deeper into this. So, Milan, I don't know if this is going to be like me interviewing you or how we're going to really do this, but let's just talk about it. So, of course, we know PR is like a big topic. Like, everybody wants to be a publicist. Every entrepreneur thinks they need a publicist. And I'm a huge advocate, like I've said on this show 100 times before, that small businesses don't need publicists. They need marketers. But publicists are important, of course. It's just figuring out, like, okay, when do I actually need a publicist? And hiring a publicist also is something financially that a lot of people aren't really able to do out the gate. So I really wanted to talk to you about this in more detail to kind of get your expertise. So to start off with the first question, when do you need a publicist?
Great question. So you need a publicist once your brand has the following things. One, brand positioning, and that means that it's actually positioned in this market. It doesn't have to be positioned in this market to the point where you were getting all the exposure from media and, the public is just so aware of you that you are like Ebony Essence and any of those top tier brands, but just well enough to where you are receiving some type of consumer feedback and some type of consumer reaction. That's the first thing. Second thing is when your brand has loyalty, when people are trusting in your brand. So if I have a natural hair line or natural hair product line and people are, sending me testimonies, they're actually buying the product, they're writing reviews on it, it's being circulated that way, and I actually have loyal consumers who are coming back to purchase my product, then that's brand loyalty. And then the last one, which should have been actually number 2, but I can give y'all that one in that order. So first, brand positioning, then brand awareness, and then brand loyalty. But brand awareness, people are actually aware of your brand. Most importantly, if nobody's aware of your brand, you really do not need a publicist. You need to actually do the groundwork first and making your brands noticeable in that area of where you're at. Like I said, a publicist's job is to really gain you exposure and build that relationship with the public and the media for you. But you need to already have established something, give them something to actually work with. You don't need a publicist 6 months in. At that time, you're actually doing the groundwork. You're building within yourself. You're building the brand's name. And then after those 6 months, I say about the 8th to the 12th month, you can start looking into a publicist to start actually getting you those media contacts and those blog features, magazine, radio interviews, and so on and so forth. But I wouldn't do anything until after the 6 months. And that the first 2 months that y'all try to get a publicist in, you're doing it all wrong. You don't need us yet.
So what is it? So how do you measure that though? And I guess this is just the marketer in me, like, needing some type of measurement tools. Like, how do you measure that people know about your brand or that your brand is in a good position? What does that look like? Because some people might think that people that they have brand loyalty, but it's just your friends and your family buying from you. So like, how can people really measure those?
Great question. Love it. I love that question only because that can be very confusing. I can use a product-based brand. So if you are, let's say, 6 months into your business and only 5 people have purchased from you and only 5 people really know about it, then you are are not there yet. But if you have a consumer rate of over 100 consumers, you have product sales from other states, not just yours, then you know that you have reached that position where you're outside of your state and you're outside of your friends. So I guess we can use that. You're outside of your friends and family and you're outside of your state. So that's a good measurement when you actually see your brand connecting outside of the individuals close in your circle and close in their circle, but actually people that, you know, you really don't know personally. That's a great measurement because, of course, your family and friends will probably be the first ones to support you. So when you actually start reaching those persons outside of them, and like I said, that 100 people consumer mark, and that's just personally for me, I would feel comfortable with that mark myself. But 100 consumers and over, then you'll definitely need to get a tag on it, and that's the time you should contact the publicist and really get that help for exposure.
Okay, so then let's talk about what are the different types of PR. So you said that's when you contact the publicist for exposure. So at that point, like, I don't know what happens next. Like if they have these, let's say 100 people of consumers or 100 customers or 100 people, whatever, what do you do from there? Or are there different things that you can do based off the type of PR?
Oh man, there's so many different type of things that you can do. Yes, there is different types of PR. You have entertainment PR, corporate PR, public affairs. There's so many levels of PR that you have, but then it's also different services within PR that can be done. So you have crisis management, reputation management. A publicist can handle a product launch, a brand launch, what else? Press releases, video news releases, media advisories, press kits, media kits. It's just so much that could take place. But when you do get to that consumer mark, let's say you haven't had a launch party yet, or you're about to release a new product, or whatever the case may be, you can reach out to a publicist for that. You are releasing a new product, you get a press release. You are releasing something, or you just need a press release done for whatever the case may be. A publicist will handle that. What else can a publicist handle in this aspect? It's so much, Lord. When I tell y'all PR is so extensive, like people say, well, what services do you offer? And we're a full public relations agency. And I'm like, oh my God. And I just start running through it. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know all of that could happen. So yeah, anyway, you could have a communications campaign or some form of a campaign that a publicist will handle. And a campaign can be like those Nike campaigns that we see, and that's just comparing and using a parallel to a product, like a Nike campaign that we see, those Super Bowl campaigns for Coca-Cola, things like that, the publicist handles. Also getting that primary and secondary research done, a publicist can handle, and the secondary research, of course, to be from your consumers and what they're thinking of your brand, what they're expecting from you. And that's very important for companies to have, just to see what the public is saying and which way they should take next. And the primary research is just inside the company, of course, or the brand. What else? As y'all can hear, it's like I said, it's so much that I can name, comparing it to these product-based businesses and these service-based businesses. What else do I want to say?
So for the, let's say, entrepreneur. So let's say for the entrepreneur who just launched let's say an interior design business, and they've reached that first step. They've been in business for 6 months. They have 100 people that know who they are. Now they're starting to look for a publicist. What direction are they going in, or do they need to reach out to a publicist?
Repeat the question for me. It was breaking up. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So let's say, for example, that we have somebody who is an entrepreneur. They have an interior design business, and they meet the minimum qualifications of they've been in business for 6 months, and they have 100 people who know who they are or have invested in their services. Now, do they come to you for exposure? Is that the next step, or like, what is that progression plan for when PR actually enters the picture?
Okay, so with that question, first the publicist would need to find out what the ultimate goal is for the client. So you would say, okay, so what's your ultimate goal, or what's your 5-year goal, or where do you see yourself in a year? Where do you want to see yourself in a year? And some may say, oh, well, I want to grow on social media. That's how their idea of exposure. They want to grow their brand on social media. It's not always to say that they want that radio interview, or some would say, oh, well, I want to be featured in the blogs. Okay, cool. So now we have to look at, if you want your consumer rate to grow, yes, you are wanting to be in the blogs, and sure, that will help, but is that going to help your sales? Like, how much is that going to help your sales? What type of brands are we looking at to get you featured in as far as the blog wise? So that's like a conversation that would have to be had between the client and the publicist, and then looking at the type of marketing and promotional tools that they have. And as we know, a media kit, press kit, EPK, whatever you want to call it, is a form of a promotional and marketing tool, because it's sent out to these blogs and these media persons. So if you don't have that, that would be something that the publicist would tackle. And then also trying to develop a branding plan. We can, not saying that all do, but developing a branding plan to further help that client brand themselves within their market so their sales can grow. So that's actually a perfect step if they come to them saying that they want to grow their brand further or increase their consumer rate, or whatever the case may be. That branding plan would be so beneficial for that client, like I said, because it'll help you grow into other cities, other places, expand, and really reach your target market. And the target market needs to be identified well before any of this is even happening or the conversation is even had. So your publicist should ask you that question first: who's your target audience? And then everything else after that is definitely going to flow a lot smoother.
I'm glad you brought up how exposure can translate into sales, because that's actually a question that I had. I think because I'm a marketer, it's easier for me to measure the return on investment, because that's my job, is to make sure that I'm driving sales. So for you, how does exposure equate to sales for a small business or entrepreneur?
So as far as the exposure, who can I use as an example? I'll use Zena as a perfect example. So as we know, she is a brand ambassador for Fashion Nova. For Fashion Nova, they get she gets the clothes, and she puts the clothes on and gives them their exposure and everything, and they give her a discount code. So people love Vina so much, and they love her, they love how she dresses, they love her personality. So when they see her in an outfit, they're like, oh my God, I love the outfit, I have to get it. So then they enter her discount code into Fashion Nova. They see that what she's doing is working for them, and they're gaining their exposure. Granted, Fashion Nova is that brand that has 1 million followers, and yes, Vina has 500,000, but they know that from her posting their clothing and wearing their stuff and saying, oh, this is Fashion Nova, definitely shop here, that they're going to get sales. One, because she has the following, people love her, they trust in her brand, they trust in her, which goes back to that brand loyalty. And that means that their consumer rate is now going up, because they're getting all of these purchases just based off of her providing them with exposure on their page. So that's kind of how that exposure translates into sales. So if you have those blogs featuring you, and they have X amount of Z in following, or X amount of Z people that visit their website and see their blog posts, and they look into you, and they're saying, this blog that they love so much is saying, yes, come and invest in the Queening Group, because this coaching program X, Y, and Z has helped us build our brand. Or even if they interviewed you and got some information from you and they back it, like, we definitely loved interviewing Tatum, we know that this brand is going to go far, X, Y, and Z, just really putting that clout around your name. People are going to look into it, one, because they already love the brand that's producing you, that's giving that exposure to you. So then they look further into you and see that. So you've already met a mid-level of trust, because the brand that exposed you had their trust so heavily. So now you've gained the level of trust, and they're looking into you. And now your job really is to pitch it, or your publicist or whomever it may be is to pitch it to the client that you're about to capture, or you pitch it to the client that you're about to capture. And the deal is sunk, because you've already had that mid-level exposure and that mid-level of trust. So now you just have to get the rest of the trust in. If all of that made sense.
It did. I mean, it made sense to me, of course.
That's why I use Vina as an example, because I feel like Fashion Nova would be like the best parallel for that.
Yeah, and I think it's a good example of how PR and marketing work together. And it's a good example of the differences between the two. So me taking the standpoint of Fashion Nova's side, it's Fashion Nova's marketing strategy to use influencers to get sales. So if Fashion Nova knows that they can put, let's say, $1,000 a month into Vina to post videos and wear her clothes and stuff like that, and for that $1,000 that they spend on her, they make back $10,000, then that's an easy return on investment. So that's the marketing side of that working. The PR side is Vina. She established this online brand of being this personality and this influencer with X amount of followers. Now her publicist Milan can then go and shop her online real estate, basically is what I'm gonna call it today, and shop her online real estate to those companies who use influencers as part of their marketing strategy. So now all she has to do is be herself and do what she was already doing, and she's getting paid by these companies to do that. And it's Milan's job to show them how it's Milan's job to show them that, hey, she has these amount of followers. She wears your clothes, you get your money. You know what I mean? It's her job to communicate to the marketing department how Vina is a good return on their investment. So I hope that made sense too, y'all. But I just really wanted to show how marketing and public relations work together. Now, on the flip side, for you guys, if you're the Fashion Nova, again, you might need a marketer more so than a publicist. But if you're, like last week, we talked about developing your personal brand. So as you're developing your personal brand, this is something that you can keep in mind, or a publicist is somebody that you might can keep in mind for yourself, because then you can use them. So let's say me, for an example, let's say speaking is one of the things that I do in one of my revenue streams. So if I've established, let's say on my YouTube channel, this online community of people who tune in to hear me speak, Milan can shop me around to different brands for me to wear their clothes or wear their jewelry or have an ad on my thing or whatever for them. You know, that's what I would need a publicist for. Me getting a publicist to get clients isn't really effective, if that makes sense. So complete, if you need a publicist for your business, I think what Milan said earlier is important. Figure out what your ultimate goal is. And you might have different goals, but figure out what that ultimate goal is that you think you need the publicist for. And then figure out, one, is that the publicist's job? Because Milan always talks about how she's a publicist and not a manager. But one, figure out if that's the publicist's job. And two, figure out, is this an investment that you're willing to make, and will you get the return on your investment for it? Because if Vina's paying Milan, let's say she's paying Milan $500 a month, and Fashion Nova is paying her $1,000 a month, that might be a good investment in her mind if that's the numbers that she wants to bring in. So again, it requires strategy, like I always talk about, and it requires an in-depth thought process to figure out if you really need a publicist for what it is that you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like if you, like you said, you need to understand what you need the publicist for first. Coming to a publicist, well, I don't know why I need you, or I really don't know what I need. It's not really good enough, because if you don't know what you need, we don't know. I mean, of course you can explain it and we can play this whole you explaining game and then me pulling it out of you, figuring it out. But it's just a lot easier when you come already knowing. Like Tatum said, for her, having a publicist wouldn't be beneficial with gaining clients, but you'd be surprised how many people actually come and say, well, I need a publicist because I need more clientele. Not necessarily, which would make more sense to say, I need a publicist because I need exposure in the media, which would eventually lead to clients. But some people come with that first. Oh, I need more clients. They have to make sure on their end that their brand is solid. And again, a publicist can help curve and shape your brand, which is one of the many things that we do. Yes, we can do that, but it would be a lot easier on you if you had already done that groundwork, which I talked about in the beginning when we first started the podcast. You shape your brand around this awareness, this loyalty, and positioning it, then you'll be fine. But if you haven't done those steps and you missed it and you're just trying to sell products, gain clientele, and none of that is there's no loyalty, there's no awareness, and there's no position, it's going to be really hard for the publicist to pitch you anywhere, pitch you to a client, pitch you to the media. It's going to be really, really hard because you didn't take that groundwork that you need to take for your business. As far as Vina goes, Vina is a walking brand. Her brand grows organically just by itself. So when I reached out to Fashion Nova, I pitched her and everything, and I didn't just take the fact that she was a personality on social media. I talked about the things that she does outside of social media to show that she was well-versed and well-rounded, because of course people can see her on social media, that's fine, but what is she doing in the community is what you all need to be worried about, because not only can she sell you on the Instagram page, she can sell you in public when she's wearing something. Somebody stops her and asks her at this event that she's hosting or this community service event that she's having, like, what outfit do you have on? They say, oh, Fashion Nova, if you want to go shopping, here's my discount code. And that's a sale right there that from somebody that wasn't even on Instagram looking at her. So when I pitched her to Fashion Nova, I used all of those techniques and all of those strategies to get her that brand ambassador deal. And that goes for Flat Tummy Tea, Pretty Little Things that she's a brand ambassador for, and all of those great brands. So yeah, they're getting their exposure and they're getting consumers just off of her, and she's getting that check. So it worked out for everybody.
So for the person that's listening who wants to be an influencer, and I think you kind of become an influencer unintentionally these days just because of how social media is, but for that person who they may have a business but they want to be an influencer as well, since you've been able to be successful with a client that's an influencer, what are some things that they can do to make themselves pitchable when they get to that point? And how many followers, I guess, so to speak, is a good number for people to start being pitched or pitching themselves to be an influencer for somebody else?
So I will say a few things on this question. One thing I learned about being an influencer, because I'm an influencer for 3 different brands, and like you said, it just kind of happens. Nobody's going to say no to a check, and nobody's going to say no to free shit. So I don't care what you think or what you thought, you're not going to say no. I haven't had to, like I said, pitch myself. They came to me, but when pitching Bina, they look for that mutual benefit. So they understood how they were benefiting from her and how she was benefiting from them. So if you are to pitch yourself, the things that they look for is, one, how are you benefiting them? Yeah, you can have 10,000 plus followers or 100,000 followers and more, but are you getting that engagement? Are you getting that reach? So that's 2 things that you need to be able to provide. Like, okay, yeah, I have 103,000 followers, but I reach about 1 million each week. That's how many unique accounts view my page and X, Y, and Z. So you need to include those things. So that makes it sound a lot better to them. Also, when you're saying, becoming a brand ambassador or brand influencer for your brand, because you have to have background information on these brands. So understanding when you're trying to tell them why you're interested, you actually have substantial background information. Don't just say because you put out the first bomber or whatever. Don't say that. Actually have something. Actually know who their current influencers are, or actual events that they've hosted and things they're actually doing within the community, because it shows that you know their brand a lot deeper in this pitch. What else can you include? So providing what you can do for them and why you will be a benefit, why they're a benefit, knowing about their brand. Yeah, that's pretty much it as far as what you can include in your pitch, because you have to sell yourself, but don't just sell yourself and not have anything in it for them. And don't oversell yourself to the point where it's like, oh yeah, I know you need me, because they don't need you. It's a lot of Instagram models out here, a lot of Instagram famous people that they can utilize with the same amount of following. You just do something a little different. as far as making yourself appealing outside of that pitch, it really depends on what you do. Like, Dina's funny. Dina's hilarious. So she has to continue to make videos to make herself appealing. When I became a brand influencer for Honey Bum, they just liked the way I dress. So that was, like I said, it was unintentional. But if you were like, you want clothing brands, then you need to make your page very fashionable. You need to make sure that people are, actually engaging in that photo. That photo quality is great. This outfit is something that's going to probably get 100 or more comments or whatever. So that's one thing that you can do. If you're a natural hair person, and this is just throwing the things out that I've seen on social media from brand influencers. If you're a natural hair person, then your page needs to be full of natural hairstyles, natural hairstyle videos of yourself doing those things. That's the kind of approach you want to take as far as your image and being appealing to a brand influencer off the visual part. What else? And as far as following goes, if you don't have a K in there, like 10K and up, and 10K is actually very low. You won't get the Fashion Novas and the Flat Tummy Tees, but you'll get other brands that have a good following. You will be able to get them, but the top tier ones, you have to have over 100K and more for the following. Yeah, and I think that's pretty much.
So how do people get their followers up?
Organically? I was like, because you can purchase followers.
Yes, organically.
So organically getting your followers up, one, the content you post. I mean, Marcus and I, which is Tatum and I's friend, we were speaking on that today about what do you post on your social media. It has to be attractive to the person that's looking at it. So that's fashion. That's what Marcus called the pretty people on social media. You have to be pretty, or you have to be, in the form of attractive, and food. Those are the three things that get people's eyes and make them want to follow you. So having an appealing page, like I was talking about on our last episode, having that Canon camera or that iPhone is the difference. Now you can use an iPhone to make it look like a Canon camera, but you have to know how to use it. So you want quality photos, you want that quality image. That's one way people will come and follow. Having those hashtags are super, super important. I just told one of my clients the other day, because she was complaining about not having enough engagement and then not enough reach on her photos and her videos. And that was the day that Black China and Rob Kardashian were going, I might well say Rob and China. Rob was going at it with himself, was trending. So I told her to hashtag Kylie Jenner, Kendall Jenner, Tyga, Black China, Rob Kardashian, the Kardashians, Kim Kardashian. I'm telling her hashtag all that stuff with her already used hashtags. So I said, come to me tomorrow and tell me what your reach and impressions are and how many followers you have. Honey, she came to me the next day. She said, oh my God, I looked at my impressions from all of my pictures, and this one has the highest in the shortest time. So she used to get like 900 and below in impressions and reach, and she was at 2,000. And I think she gained about 10 followers off of that or something, she said. But nonetheless, as you can see, her hashtagging what was trending drew attention to her post. So that's the way that you can do it. And it's something always trending. So don't say, what if something's not trending? There's something always trending. If you need to phone a friend, go to Yahoo and look on Yahoo's homepage. Go to Twitter, look on that, or just follow the Shade Room, and you will find what is trending for that day. That's another way. And then the locations are important now. If you hashtag a location, or if you type in places on your Instagram search bar, it's a circle at the top, and it says, we'll say DMV or Virginia. It'll say Virginia. You click on it, and it's a bunch of Virginia posts in there, and you can click on these people's pages now. So that's another way to grow your following organically, and having a public page. And not only that, as the last one, because I can't give y'all too many tips for free, but the public page, having your page public. If your page is private, it's going to be really, really hard for you to gain followers, because I know some people don't feel like having to wait for you to accept their following request. Just see what's on your page. They like to come, see it, shop around, and then follow you. And that's what it really is. Your Instagram page being public, or any social media being public, is like window shopping. If I see something I like, I may get it if I can afford it. But if I can't, I'm going to leave. If I see something, I may kind of like it, but I'm not too sold on it, I'm going to leave. That's what it is. So if they see it and they really love it, they're going to follow you.
I think that was a good point about using the hashtags that are like relevant for what's going on. But I just got exhausted listening to that. I'm like, that takes time. So not only do I got to get all the stuff to post and do the captions and work on my business, I got to find out what's trending too. Like, Jesus Christ, I'm sleepy. That whole thing made me sleepy.
Girl, it's a lot of work. Building a social media page and building your social media brand, you know that's hard. That's not something you can happen. And then what I've learned, and this is the recent one, is you have to post consistently. Like they're saying now, you got to post at least 3 posts a day on Instagram, and then you got to have at least up to 15 tweets a day. It's like so much. I'm like, who has time for that? If I'm on my phone, being able to post 3 times a day on Instagram, sending out 15 tweets, managing Facebook, Snapchat, and any other social media that I have, when did I really get work done for my actual brand? I'm sitting here, I'm about to be a social media brand only because as much time as I've dedicated to it. So yeah, it is very, very draining. But I will say those tools that you provided me with, like Latergram and I forgot what the other thing was, to where you can put tweets in and it posts for you. But those have actually become beneficial. And if you have a business account linked to your Instagram from, of course, Facebook, you can see during that week your highest days of engagement, the hours of engagement that are the highest, and you can really schedule your post. And then when it's time to post it, you can just go ahead and post it. But again, if you got to keep up with the social media trends and what's happening in entertainment or what's happening in the world, for whatever case may be, and you got to hashtag it, that's just a quick little edit. So I think that kind of will eliminate the draininess of it all and actually having to be on social media all day.
Yeah, something that I teach is I tell people, pick whatever platform your target audience is on and focus on that. Because as y'all can see, it's a lot that goes into being intentional about your social media and building your brand online. If you spending energy on Twitter and say your target audience isn't on Twitter, you're wasting your time. If your target audience is on Instagram and they're not on Facebook like that, or if they're on Instagram the most, focus on Instagram. Why spread out your time on 20 different networks trying to figure out Snapchat when Snapchat ain't converting? You know what I mean? Focus on what's going to get them goals met, as opposed to trying to build a brand on every single platform. So that's my advice for social media. Pick the one that matters, as opposed to trying to figure out how to do all of them. And shoot, based off that, I'll probably hire somebody to do my social media because I'm just not trying to. But so my last question, though, is for those people who are just starting out, they can't afford a publicist. They may be in that 6 month, or they may even be after the 6 month, and a publicist just isn't in their budget at that time. What are some ways that they can get free publicity? So we talked about social media. So we know social media, and we now have some tools to use on our social media pages. But what are some other free ways to get publicity for them and their businesses?
Some free ways to gain free publicity. Dang, we did a freebie on this, remember, a really, really long time ago, on how to gain free publicity. So I'm going to try to refer back to that. We talked about having a referral program where not necessarily, of course, it's not paid, but if I'm doing such a great job and Tatum knows it, she'll have somebody says, I really think I need a publicist or whatever, or, whatever the case may be, and she'll refer me to somebody else, and then they refer me, I didn't have to pay to be put in somebody's blog or to get on the radio and say. That was just word of mouth. That was what it started with. Before we had social media, it was grassroots. You really had to hit the community and get yourself out there. So that was like a form of free publicity, just really the referral program, and just having people refer you over and over again. What was another one that I had said when I gave the free publicity? Bear with me, guys, because I really want to refer back to that, because that was actually a really, really great freebie. I think we should bring that one back to you, too. Dang it. What was the other one that I said? Going to networking events and networking with not even just networking events, going to different events, period, that fall within your industry, within your market, going to those events, networking with those individuals there. That's another way to give exposure to yourself and free publicity. And what was the last one that I said? I think I probably gave away 5 of them, but what was the other one that I had that I liked a lot that I said? Tag it. Shoot, what was the other one? Oh, it doesn't matter. One that I can say is having your elevator pitch ready, or your pitch, developing a pitch for yourself, because you can actually reach out to these blogs yourself if your subject line is very, very strong. And when I say strong, meaning creative, very creative, and under 50 characters. Well, you can have up to 50 characters in your subject line. And this is coming from a strategic public relations master's degree that we learned that it needs to be under 50 characters in your subject line. It needs to be creative, needs to be unique. And then you have your pitch. And I already gave you guys an idea of what a pitch should sound like if you're pitching. And I'd use it towards a brand influencer, but that can be honestly to anyone you're pitching to. So having that catchy subject line and that strong pitch, you can pretty much gain yourself some placement. As far as the top tier brands and stuff, you will need a publicist for that, because 9 times out of 10 your publicist has those connections to get you placed there. But for the smaller ones, like your local blogs and things like that, that you just kind of want to get placed in right then and there, you already have the tools, because I just gave it to you. So have fun and good luck.
Not have fun and good luck, though.
I mean, pitching is fun. Well, it's fun for me, but it may not be fun for everybody else. But yeah, pitching is fun because you get to sell yourself, you get to tell a story, and then it's like the anticipation. Are they going to say yes? Are they going to say no? And then when they do say yes, you're excited because you pitch yourself, well enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think about doing something with that freebie. I think I might add it to Black Girl Boss University as an incentive for when registration opens up. Mm-hmm. Then we can maybe give it away then. So y'all that are interested in getting that freebie, stay tuned. We recorded 2 episodes in one night. So by the time this one come out, I think Black Girl Boss University will already have been announced. So anyway, stay tuned for Black Girl Boss University. This freebie will be included somewhere in there. Maybe as like a bonus with Milan's course. We can add it to that. But anyway, thanks Milan for giving us insight into the PR world. She definitely dropped some gems, you guys. I hope y'all was taking notes. If not, you can always replay, write those things down, because it's definitely expensive sometimes to put a publicist on a retainer. So if you can do it yourself, and Milan has some great services coming out for that, but if you could do it yourself, that's something that you need to hop on ASAP. And even if you hop on it now, when you're even in that position to hire a publicist, you're that much easier to pitch. So if you already have positioned yourself, by the time you get to them, all they have to do is reach out to the contact that they've built, and boom, you're getting all the exposure that you want. So don't be lazy just because you can't afford a publicist. Do the work that you have to do now so that you can still get that exposure. And even with me, I get a lot of exposure and opportunities, and I don't have a publicist, but people just see me doing my thing, and they reach out to me. Or if I reach out to somebody else, I position myself in the way that I'm marketable, to where I can reach out to somebody and get featured, or I can reach out and get what it is that I'm asking for. So make sure that you're in a position where you're pitchable. So again, thanks Milan. Because we recorded 2 episodes in one night, we don't have any questions for this one. So we'll just wrap this episode up. If you guys have any questions, as usual, send us a message at blackgirlbosses@gmail.com. Visit us on the web, www.blackgirlbosses.com. Follow us on the gram at blackgirlbosses, and sign up for Black Girl Boss University. Whew, I'm done. See y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.